story begins in a cozy suburban home where the Thompson family resides. Emma, the 12-year-old protagonist, is a bright and observant girl with a natural knack for problem solving. Her parents, Sarah and James, are loving and attentive, while her 6-year-old brother Liam is a bundle of energy and curiosity. The family shares a warm bond, and their evenings are filled with laughter and shared moments. One such evening, Sarah is in the kitchen preparing dinner, the comforting aroma of baked lasagna filling the air. She hums softly to herself as she chops vegetables, glancing occasionally at Emma, who is seated at the dining table with Liam. Emma is helping him with his math homework, patiently explaining how to solve simple addition problems. Liam furrows his brow, concentrating hard, and Emma smiles encouragingly. "You've got this, Liam. Just one more try," she says, her tone gentle yet firm. James walks into the room carrying a toolbox. He's been fixing a loose shelf in the living room and looks pleased with his handiwork. "Dinner smells amazing," he remarks, giving Sarah a quick peck on the cheek. Turning to Emma, he adds, "Thanks for keeping an eye on your brother, champ." Emma nods, feeling a sense of pride in being helpful. As they sit down to dinner, the conversation flows easily. They talk about Liam's day at kindergarten and Emma's science project, which involves building a miniature solar-powered car. James mentions how impressed he is with Emma's creativity and determination, while Sarah reminds Emma to take breaks and not overwork herself. The family laughs when Liam excitedly recounts how he painted a butterfly in art class, spilling milk in his enthusiasm. After dinner, the family gathers in the living room for a board game night. Emma organizes the games, ensuring everyone has fun. She even fixes a small issue with Liam's toy train, which had stopped working earlier. "There, good as new," she says, handing the train back to Liam, who beams with gratitude. The atmosphere is filled with warmth and togetherness, showcasing their close-knit relationship. As the night progresses and the children get ready for bed, James mentions something that has been on his mind. "I've been hearing these strange creaks in the house lately. Probably just the house settling. But it's a bit odd," he says, his tone casual but thoughtful. Sarah brushes it off, saying older houses often make noises, but Emma's curiosity is piqued. She decides not to say anything, but resolves to investigate the sounds herself when she gets the chance. Later that night, as the house quiets down, Emma lies in bed staring at the ceiling. Her mind is abuzz with thoughts about the creaks her dad mentioned. She remembers hearing faint noises herself a few times, but had dismissed them as her imagination. Now she wonders if there's more to it. Determined to find out, she plans to pay closer attention over the next few days. The scene closes with Emma drifting off to sleep, the faint sound of the wind rustling through the trees outside. The warmth of the family's bond and the hint of mystery set the stage for what's to come, leaving the audience with a sense of anticipation. The night settles quietly over the Thompson household. After an evening of laughter and togetherness, the family begins their bedtime routine. Sarah and James retire to their bedroom, discussing plans for the weekend as they prepare to sleep. Liam, exhausted from the excitement of the day, is fast asleep in his room, clutching his favorite stuffed animal. Emma, ever the curious and resourceful child, stays awake a little longer, engrossed in a book under her blanket, using a flashlight to read without disturbing anyone. The house is silent, save for the occasional creak of the floorboards as the wind brushes against the walls. Around midnight, Emma stirs, her senses picking up something unusual. A faint smell of smoke tickles her nose. At first she wonders if she's imagining it, but the scent grows stronger. Suddenly, the shrill beep of the fire alarm pierces the quiet. Emma's heart leaps into her throat as she realizes something is terribly wrong. Throwing off her blanket, she springs into action. Her mind races, but she forces herself to stay calm. She remembers the fire safety drill her teacher had demonstrated at school and decides to act quickly. Emma rushes out of her room and heads straight to her parents' bedroom. "Mom, Dad, wake up! There's smoke!" she shouts, shaking them both awake. Sarah and James jolt upright, alarmed, as the smell of smoke becomes unmistakable. "I'll get Liam!" Emma exclaims, darting down the hallway toward her brother's room. Flames are beginning to creep from the kitchen into the hallway, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Emma covers her mouth with her sleeve to shield herself from the smoke and pushes open Liam's door. The little boy stirs as Emma shakes him gently but firmly. "Liam, wake up! We have to go now," she says, her voice steady but urgent. Groggily, Liam clings to Emma as she picks him up, her small frame brimming with determination. By now, Sarah and James have grabbed their phones and are calling 911 while trying to assess the safest way to escape. Emma's voice cuts through the chaos. "We need to get out through the back door. The front is too close to the fire," she shouts. She remembers the emergency kit that James always kept by the back door and insists on retrieving it. "We'll need it," she explains, already heading toward the back. The smoke is thick and choking, but Emma grabs the kit and spots the fire extinguisher mounted near the back door. She pulls it off the wall and hands it to James. "Dad, use this to clear a path if we need it," she says, surprising even herself with her composure. As a family, they crouch low to avoid inhaling too much smoke and make their way to the backyard. Emma clutches Liam's hand tightly, whispering words of reassurance to keep him calm. Sarah follows closely, her face a mix of fear and gratitude for her daughter's quick thinking. James uses the fire extinguisher to douse some flames near the doorway, buying them precious seconds to escape. Finally, they make it outside into the cool night air. The family huddles together, coughing and gasping, but safe. Emma's mind is still racing as she surveys the house, flames now visible through the kitchen windows. She sees the neighbors beginning to stir, lights flickering on in nearby homes. Sarah clutches Emma and Liam tightly, tears streaming down her face. "You saved us, Emma," she whispers, her voice breaking. Emma barely has time to process her mother's words before she hears the sound of sirens in the distance. The firefighters are on their way. Despite the fear and chaos of the moment, Emma feels a small sense of relief. They made it out, and help is coming. But as she looks back at the house, something nags at her. A fleeting memory of the stove being turned off, of everything seeming normal before they went to bed. The thought lingers as the family waits for the firefighters to arrive, unaware of the shocking discovery that will soon come to light. The Thompson family stands huddled together in their backyard, trembling from the cold night air and the shock of their narrow escape. Flames engulf the kitchen, licking up the walls and casting an ominous orange glow across the yard. The air is thick with smoke, and the acrid smell stings their noses. Emma clutches Liam tightly, whispering words of comfort as tears streak his soot-smudged cheeks. Sarah wraps an arm protectively around Emma, while James paces nervously, his phone still clutched in his hand. Emma takes a deep breath, steeling herself. Despite her own fear, she knows she has to act quickly. She dials 911 on her phone, her voice steady and clear as she speaks to the dispatcher. "There's a fire at 42 Maple Lane," she says, her voice trembling slightly. "Everyone is out of the house, but the fire is spreading fast." The dispatcher assures her that firefighters are on the way, and Emma hangs up, feeling a small sense of relief. Within minutes, the distant wail of sirens pierces the night. The neighbors begin to stir, stepping out of their homes in robes and slippers, their faces filled with concern as they watch the flames consume the Thompson house. A few approach the family, offering blankets and words of comfort. Sarah thanks them, her voice choked with emotion, while James continues to watch the house with a grim expression. The fire trucks arrive in a flurry of flashing lights and blaring horns. Firefighters leap into action, pulling hoses from the trucks and donning their gear with practiced precision. One firefighter, a tall woman with a calm demeanor, approaches the family. "Is everyone accounted for?" she asks. James nods quickly. "Yes, we're all out. No one's inside." The firefighter nods and instructs them to stay back, away from the smoke and debris, before joining her team. As the firefighters work to contain the blaze, Emma watches intently, her sharp eyes scanning the scene. Something about the fire doesn't sit right with her. She's certain her mom turned off the stove before bed, and there had been no candles or anything else that could have started the fire. The thought gnaws at her, filling her with unease. The flames rage on, stubborn and unrelenting. The firefighters move methodically, spraying water onto the house and breaking windows to release the smoke. Emma notices a group of firefighters gathered near the back door, their voices low and hurried. Though she can't make out what they're saying, their body language suggests something unusual. One of them glances toward the family before quickly returning to the conversation. A few moments later, One of the firefighters emerges from the house, his expression a mix of confusion and concern. He approaches the fire chief and whispers something in his ear. The chief's brow furrows deeply as he listens, then nods and gestures for the firefighter to return inside. Emma catches snippets of their exchange but can't piece together the full context. Found something strange. Kitchen. Doesn't add up. The suspense builds as the family stands in the yard, watching the scene unfold. Sarah clutches Emma and Liam tightly, her anxiety growing with each passing moment. James steps forward, addressing one of the firefighters. What's going on? Did you find something? The firefighter hesitates, glancing at the house before replying. We're still investigating, sir. Please stay back for your safety. Emma's curiosity intensifies. She's always been observant, and now her mind races with possibilities. Could the fire have been started intentionally? The idea sends a chill down her spine. She remembers the strange creaks and noises her dad mentioned earlier and wonders if they could be connected. As the firefighters continue their work, the family's neighbors gather closer, murmuring among themselves. The sight of the once cozy home now engulfed in flames is both heartbreaking and unnerving. Emma overhears snippets of their conversations, phrases like, poor family, and such a tragedy, but also, I wonder what caused it. The tension reaches a peak when the fire is finally brought under control. Smoke still billows from the charred remains of the kitchen, but the flames are no longer spreading. The fire chief approaches the family, his expression serious. We've managed to contain the fire, he says, but we've found some things that need further investigation. We'll be working with the authorities to determine the cause. Emma exchanges a worried glance with her parents. Her instincts tell her there's more to this fire than meets the eye. As the firefighters begin packing up their equipment, Emma's mind races with unanswered questions. What did they find in the house? And why did they seem so puzzled? The scene closes with the family standing together in the yard, their faces illuminated by the faint glow of the smoldering house. The neighbors' voices fade into the background as Emma's thoughts swirl. She knows this is only the beginning of a mystery that will change their lives forever. The firefighters work tirelessly to extinguish the last embers of the fire, ensuring no hidden flames remain. The once cozy Thompson home now stands as a charred shell, its walls blackened and windows shattered. The air is heavy with the smell of burnt wood and ash, and the night is eerily silent except for the distant murmur of neighbors and the crackling of extinguished debris. One firefighter, a middle-aged man with a streak of soot across his face, approaches the family, his expression grave. Emma, still holding Liam's hand, watches him intently. Sarah and James exchange worried glances, bracing themselves for what they're about to hear. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, the firefighter begins, his voice steady but serious. We've completed an initial inspection of the house, and I need to share something important with you. He pauses, glancing at Emma and Liam before continuing. We found evidence that the fire wasn't accidental. There are signs of arson. Sarah's hand flies to her mouth as she gasps. Arson? Are you sure? She asked, her voice trembling. James steps forward, his face pale. What kind of evidence? The firefighter nods solemnly. In the kitchen, we discovered traces of accelerants, substances used to start and spread fires. Additionally, some of the electrical wiring shows clear signs of tampering. It appears someone deliberately set the fire. The weight of his words hangs in the air, heavy and suffocating. Emma's mind races as she tries to make sense of the revelation. Who would want to harm them? And why? She looks up at her parents, whose faces are etched with shock and disbelief. But why would anyone do this? James mutters, more to himself than anyone else. We don't have enemies. We're just an ordinary family. Emma's sharp memory kicks in, and a detail from earlier in the day flashes through her mind. The van, she says suddenly, her voice cutting through the silence. Everyone turns to look at her. I saw a van parked near the house this afternoon. It was there for a while, and I thought it was strange because I didn't recognize it. The firefighter's eyes narrow with interest. Can you describe the van? He asks. Emma nods, her confidence growing. It was white with no windows on the sides, and there was a dent near the back. I think the license plate started with G4K. I didn't see the rest, but it looked out of place. The firefighter pulls out a notepad and quickly jots down Emma's observations. That's very helpful, he says. We'll pass this information along to the authorities. They'll want to investigate this lead further. The fire chief approaches the family, his expression a mixture of admiration and concern. "You've got a sharp mind, young lady," he tells Emma. "Your quick thinking and clear observations might just help us solve this. And let me say, your actions tonight, getting your family out safely, calling for help, were incredibly brave. You should be proud of yourself." Emma feels a flush of pride, but it's tempered by the lingering fear and confusion. She looks at the house, now reduced to a smoldering ruin, and wonders what could have driven someone to target them. Was it random, or were they specifically chosen? Sarah kneels down and pulls Emma and Liam into a tight embrace. "We're so lucky to have you," she whispers, her voice thick with emotion. James places a hand on Emma's shoulder, his grip firm and reassuring. "We'll get through this," he says, though the uncertainty in his eyes betrays his words. The firefighters begin packing up their equipment, but the investigation is far from over. The family is told that arson investigators and police officers will be arriving soon to gather more evidence and take statements. Emma watches as the firefighter who spoke to her relays her description of the van to a colleague. She feels a small spark of hope that her observations might make a difference. As the family sits on the curb, wrapped in blankets provided by their neighbors, Emma can't shake the image of the mysterious van from her mind. She resolves to pay closer attention to anything unusual in the days to come. Whoever did this might have thought they could destroy the Thompson family's sense of security, but Emma silently vows to help uncover the truth. The scene ends with the family huddled together, their faces illuminated by the faint glow of the remaining embers. The mystery of who set the fire and why looms large, leaving both the Thompsons and the audience eager for answers. The arrival of the police marks the beginning of a tense and uneasy night for the Thompson family. Officers cordon off the area, their flashlights cutting through the smoky remnants of the fire as they carefully comb through the house. The family watches from a distance, wrapped in blankets provided by their neighbors. Emma sits close to her parents, clutching Liam's small hand as they wait for updates. One officer approaches the family with a calm but serious demeanor. "We'll do everything we can to figure out who's responsible for this," he assures them. Emma's parents nod, their faces etched with worry. The officer continues, "During our initial sweep, we found something you might want to know about." He holds up a partially burned notebook, its edges charred, but some of the pages intact. "This was near the kitchen," he explains. "There are notes inside, though some are illegible. What we can read seems cryptic, phrases like 'time to collect' and 'make them pay.' We'll need to analyze it further, but it might give us a clue about the perpetrator's motives." Sarah's hand tightens around Emma's shoulder. "Who would do this to us?" she asks, her voice breaking. James looks at the officer, his brow furrowed. "We haven't had problems with anyone except—" His voice trails off as he exchanges a glance with Sarah. "Except the contractor," Sarah says, her tone growing sharper as realization dawns. "We had an argument with him a few weeks ago. He was upset when we decided not to hire him for additional work. He said something about wasting his time and stormed off. Could he have done this?" The officer nods thoughtfully. "We'll look into that lead. Do you have his name or contact information?" James quickly retrieves his phone and provides the details, his hands shaking slightly as he types. Meanwhile, Emma's mind is racing. She remembers the strange van she had seen earlier that day, and she speaks up. "I saw a van near our house this afternoon," she says. "It was white with no windows on the sides. There was a dent near the back, and the license plate started with G4K. It didn't seem like it belonged here." The officer listens carefully, jotting down her description. "That's an excellent observation," he says. "We'll use that information to track down the vehicle. It could be a crucial lead." As the police continue their investigation, the Thompson family's fear deepens. The idea that someone deliberately set the fire to harm them is both chilling and incomprehensible. Sarah pulls Emma and Liam close, her expression one of fierce protectiveness. "We're going to be okay," she says, though her voice wavers slightly. James, ever the problem solver, tries to remain practical. "We need to think about security," he says. "We'll install cameras, maybe even stay somewhere else for a while until we figure this out." His words provide some comfort, but the unease lingers. Emma, though frightened, feels a growing determination. She's always been the kind of person who notices things others overlook, and now she feels a responsibility to use that skill to help. I want to help however I can, she tells her parents. If I remember anything else, I'll tell the police. Sarah strokes her daughter's hair, her eyes glistening with tears. You're so brave, Emma, she whispers. The police officers continue their work, snapping photos and collecting evidence. Emma watches as one officer examines the notebook more closely, his face tightening with concentration. Another officer speaks into his radio, relaying Emma's description of the van to his colleagues. The family's backyard, once a place of laughter and joy, now feels like the scene of a crime drama. As the hours stretch on, the Thompson family remains vigilant. Liam, too young to fully grasp the gravity of the situation, dozes off in Sarah's lap. Emma, however, stays awake, her mind replaying every detail of the day. She thinks about the van, the strange creaks in the house, and the notebook's cryptic notes. Each piece of the puzzle feels important, but the full picture remains frustratingly out of reach. The scene closes with the family sitting together, their faces illuminated by the faint glow of a nearby street lamp. Though the fear of the unknown looms large, Emma's resolve is stronger than ever. Whoever did this might have underestimated the Thompsons, but Emma is determined to uncover the truth and ensure her family's safety. The mystery is far from over, and Emma knows this is just the beginning of their fight for answers. The days following the fire are filled with tension and uncertainty. The Thompson family tries to regain a sense of normalcy, but the trauma of the event lingers. They stay at a nearby hotel, their once cozy home now reduced to a charred shell. Despite the upheaval, Emma remains vigilant, her mind frequently returning to the mysterious notebook and the van she had spotted. One evening, as the family gathers in the hotel room, a knock at the door interrupts the quiet. James answers to find two police officers standing outside, their expressions serious. "We've made some progress in the investigation," one of them says. The family listens intently as the officer explains. "The notebook we found has been decoded. It contained detailed plans to destroy your house, but the motive isn't entirely clear yet." James exchanges a bewildered glance with Sarah. "Why would someone target us?" he asks. The officer continues. "We traced the van Emma described to an ex-employee of your company, Mr. Thompson. He was terminated recently for misconduct. It seems he may have harbored resentment." Sarah gasps, her hand flying to her mouth. "Do you think he's the one who set the fire?" she asks. The officer nods. "We believe so, but there's more. Based on the notebook and other evidence, it appears he wasn't just seeking revenge. He believed there was something valuable hidden in your house, something connected to your past." Mr. Thompson James's face pales. "Something valuable? I have no idea what he could be talking about," he says, but his tone betrays a hint of doubt. Emma notices the flicker of uncertainty in her father's eyes and files it away in her mind. The officer finishes. "We're still piecing everything together, but it's clear he was convinced there was something worth risking everything for. If you think of anything that might explain his actions, let us know immediately." As the police leave, the family is left grappling with more questions than answers. The idea that their home was targeted because of a hidden secret is both unnerving and perplexing. James insists he has no idea what the man was looking for, but Emma senses there's more to the story. A few days later, the family visits the house to retrieve any belongings that might have survived the fire. As they sift through the debris, Emma finds herself drawn to the basement. Despite the soot and rubble, she carefully makes her way through the wreckage. Something about the corner of the room catches her eye, a section of the wall that seems slightly different from the rest. Curiosity piqued, Emma pushes against the wall, and to her surprise, a hidden compartment clicks open. Inside is a small, scorched box. Her heart races as she lifts it out, its surface warm to the touch, despite the days that have passed since the fire. She turns the box over in her hands, noticing intricate engravings that have survived the flames. "Mom! Dad! Come here!" Emma calls out, her voice trembling with excitement and trepidation. Sarah and James rush down, their faces a mix of shock and disbelief as they see the box. "What is it?" Sarah asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Emma doesn't answer immediately. She carefully opens the box, her hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. The screen fades to black as the lid lifts, leaving the audience on the edge of their seats, wondering what secrets the box holds and how it ties into the mystery that has upended the Thompson family's lives.